it. This is why it is so important for you to learn how to endure, learn how to develop. And in this season, God is developing you. He hasn't rejected you. Don't never think that God has rejected you. He's only developing you. The enemy is trying to deceive you with lies and deceit. Why? Because the Bible said that hope that is deferred, it makes the heart sick. And it's not denied, even though it's been deferred, but God is developing you while he's bringing you through. David said, although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, David understood the importance of endurance by walking through the valley of the shadow of death. The valley is the lowest point. The mountaintop is where you desire to go. But it's things that you learn in the valley before you get to your mountaintop. And God is trying to bring you into the mountaintop. But you have to learn how to endure the valley. His staff is in the valley. Thy rod and thy staff, it comforts me. God is right there with you in the valley. He's walking with you. When you walk through the water, I'll be with you. When you go in the fire, I will be with you. Remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? When he walked through the fire, when they walked through the fire, he was right there with them. Why? Because they knew how to persevere. They knew how to endure until God came. God never changed the circumstance. He came in the circumstance. And what God is trying to tell you, that I'm not going to change the circumstance. I'm going to come in the circumstance, and you're going to have peace while you're in it, so you have the power to endure till I take you to the next season. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to use this real quick. I know that we're all familiar with this, because sometimes seasons can take a long time. Change can take a long time. It does. And sometimes we get weary in well-doing. And anytime you can get weary in well-doing, it's only a sign that you haven't matured yet, that you haven't become the butterfly yet, because you haven't learned how to endure. There's many avenues in learning how to endure. But the problem that we have is this. The problem that we have is this: we live in the microwave age. So we want everything to be done quick. So I'm going to use this tonight as just a reference to how we are in society. We know what this is good for. We can use it. We know how to use it. Anytime you see a microwave, one of the things that you're going to find is something that's in the microwave. It's always processed. This is what it is. It's processed. So normally what we do when we don't have the faith to wait, nor the endurance, because we haven't been developed, what we try to utilize is a process. This is processed. All I have to do in the instructions say, because it's been processed, it's already fully cooked. The instructions say, based on me using it in the microwave, is put it on for 8 minutes, because it's a process. So anytime you see Bird's Eye is a brand. You know that you can put Bird's Eye products inside of a microwave because it's been processed. And God is saying the exact same thing when it comes to Bird's Eye, because somebody has already perfected the process. What we try to do is perfect what's already perfected and take that thing without us going through a process, without us perfecting our process. So what we try to do is go in the book of Daniel and say, I'm going to go in the book of Daniel, where Daniel fasted and prayed 21 days. And God said, no, that was Daniel's process. It's not yours. Maybe you have to go 40 days before your process ends. But sometimes we still try to perfect it, our process. So I'm going to go and do what Jesus did. I'm going to go for 40 days. And God said, your process ain't 40 days, it's 80 days. Because you have to perfect your own process. It's not microwavable. Because with microwaves, we have perfected this thing because we can push buttons. Listen, you can push the button and hear it. You can hear the microwave turn on. You can see the time. And when it come to us, my God, wait a minute. When it come to us, because we don't have the power to wait, because endurance, perseverance, and patience is always dealing with waiting until your change comes or until God comes. So what we normally do, we try to push God's buttons. we try to push God's buttons. So how do we push God's buttons? We think that we can speed up our process or speed up our season by giving God money. I'm going to come in church, and the pastor told me I'm going to sow a seed to meet a need. So you go into church thinking that you can manipulate God by changing your season and not being developed. So you're going to try to sow a seed in order to meet a need. By this time tomorrow, this is what the Bible said. The man of God said it in the Bible. At the time of life. So you go and try to push God's button with money. And God is saying, you can't manipulate me with money in this season. You even in giving tithes and offering, you're saying that it's going to open up a window of heaven and I'm going to pour me out blessings that I ain't got room enough to receive. And God said, that's good. I love faith on layaway. Faith on layaway. That's what it is. You know how sometimes you can go, I don't know what y'all, back in my days, my mom used to put everything on layaway. Now, they've taken layaways out of stores now because people have abused it. But layaways is when you can have a deposit. So your faith is the deposit, and your faith is the layaway that will get you through the process, and God honors the faith, but he still keeps you in the process. Luke chapter 22. 30th verse, 31, Jesus told him, he said, listen, I understand, Peter, Simon, Satan has a desire to sift you as wheat. I'm not taking away your process. You're going to have to persevere. You're going to have to endure. You're going to have to go through until your process is finished. You can't manipulate me. Because this is what's going to bring you the strength so you can strengthen your brothers, teach your brothers, reach your brothers. You cannot do it without a process. You have to persevere. And this is one of the things that God expressed to me through the whole process. He said, because some people don't like me. He said, they are treating me because they have to go through a process like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I said, well, Lord, how are they treating you like this? He said, because they have to endure. They have to go through hardships. They have to go through struggles. They have to go through hard times. He told me this. He said, they're treating me like Facebook. They have unfriended me. He said, they have unfriended me and they have stopped following me. Watch this, because when the message is good, you'll share it. He said they stopped sharing the gospel. They stopped sharing their testimony. They stopped sharing it because of the hard times, because they thought that I was like a microwave. They thought that they can push my buttons and set their time to come out. He said, but this is the season and the hour where the process is up. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you, some of you, your process is up. So let me explain it. On this microwave is a button called popcorn. Watch, I want you to hear this. Let me tell you, because when your season is up, you know what popcorn is? It's just a kernel. Jesus said, unless a kernel goes into the ground and dies alone, it cannot yield the harvest. But in order for the kernel to become popcorn, it needs heat. And God said, all of last season and the things that you had to endure, the things that you had to suffer, the things where you cried, moments where you shed tears, God said that was enough heat. Now the kernel becomes pop, which means a manifestation of it. God said the season is now up because you had the power and the ability and you still like God. Yeah, you can send the thumbs up because you like God. God said you still like me throughout the process because you had the power to endure. Because you like me, now I can manifest what I desire, what you have predestined, what you've been hoping for. Why? Because you had faith on layaway. Yes, that's your faith was the deposit that you needed to get out of this season. So you was anticipating the house, then God said, and this, let me tell you what I see. I see someone who's been waiting for a house, and this house is a 2-story. I see a 2-story house, and your faith was the down payment. Your faith was the layaway that you needed in order to get it. Where it looked like you wasn't going to never get the house. It looked like nothing was going to manifest. Your credit wasn't in the right place, and God is saying the 2-story house is yours. Not because, watch this, not because you were great. Not because any of that, because you had the ability to endure. Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Why? Because God said you had the faith to believe and endure, and you persevered. So now the promise can come because of the pain. Sometimes God will allow you to experience pain to let you know that the promise is real, and now you have to persevere to get the promise. Let me read this scripture to you. I'm going to show you something. This is one of the things that you must do in perseverance while you're going through. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 18 saying, praying always and prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. For all perseverance for all saints. You must understand that God is not punishing you. He's promoting you. Pain is a sign of promotion, and he allows you to go through that pain because he's developing something in you while he's finna bring you into your promise, like into your season. Don't allow hardships to fool you, because no person scripturally ever got promoted without being promoted with pain. So let me say this. God said, I'll put no more on you than you can bear. You know the reason why it's there? It's because God put it on you. You're stronger than what it appears. You're stronger than what you think. God has you in a spiritual gym. Yeah, a 24-hour fitness. Yeah, a 24-hour fitness. That the moment you get up, you're going through. The moment you go down, you're going through. The moment you walk around, it's 24 hours. He's got you in a spiritual gym that you checked in. And listen, you don't understand how significant it is, because God will never, if he said, I'll put no more on you than you can bear, then it must mean wait. Wait. You understand what weight is? You feel the weight of your problem. You feel the weight of your circumstance. You feel the weight of your situation. It's weight. And when God places the weight, he only places the weight of the problem so you can develop in what you have to carry. Because what you have to carry is a testimony. Okay. I know we understand the Ark of the Covenant. You know what the Ark of the Covenant is? Where the priests had to carry the presence of God. And God will never allow you to carry his weight with the absence of his presence. And the weight was placed on their shoulders. Do you know what the word glory means? It means weight. And some of us don't understand that the pain that you're enduring, the pain that you're going through, you're getting ready to carry the glory and the presence of God. You know what the presence is? The presence is every answer that any person will ever need. He would tell Moses and the children of Israel, my presence will go with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Do you know that he said that in the same thing in the Old Testament, that he will come back in the New Testament? In the Old Testament, he said, you'll be my cloud by day and my fire by night. But what do I have to endure for that to take place? That you have to deal with Pharaoh. You have to go through 400 years of slavery. You have to deal with that to be able to endure Pharaoh in order to get the cloud by day and the fire by night. See, some people are going to think that your miracle came overnight because they never saw your misery. Not understanding that the woman that had the issue of blood for 12 years, They only saw her miracle manifest in that moment, but they didn't see the 12 years. They didn't see what she had to lose. They didn't see that she was rich at one point. They didn't see that she had lost her family. They didn't see she couldn't sleep with her husband. They didn't understand. 12 years looked like it was one moment, but they didn't see her misery. She endured, and she touched his hem, and the blessing of God came, and it dried up her problem, and it was over. Listen, but she had to have the power to get to the hem. She had to persevere through the crowd, go through the people, be laughed at, be talked about, be isolated. Isolation. And Jesus would come in a moment and call this woman daughter. It's the first time that we ever see that God had a child, that God would call somebody daughter. Now, God would call his own son, Jesus his son, but Jesus would turn and call this woman daughter. You never see anywhere else where it's recorded where he'll call a woman daughter. He only called this woman daughter because she had the power to persevere. Daughter, your faith has made you whole. He said, because you persevered for 12 years. You went through the tough times. You lost money to find me. Whew. Sometimes God will allow certain things to transpire in your place. See, if money becomes an idol, if money becomes the place where you trust, then sometimes something will happen in your trust so that you can trust God. The Bible said that when she lost all of her living from every doctor, everything that she had, the only thing that she had left was Jesus. And sometimes God got to get everything out of your way so that he can make a way in persevering. Why? Because he is your help. He is the sufficient one. He becomes your Jehovah Jireh. Sometimes God want to give you your own personal testimony. He's got to give your own personal testimony. Stop looking for quickies. Stop looking for ways to get out. It's a process. Everybody want to throw something in the microwave. We all want to push buttons and we set the time and walk away. We want to set it and forget it. But you didn't start this. You didn't create this process. Bird's eye did. So you got to have a bird's eye view when it comes to God. Bird's eye view when it comes to God. And you have to understand that God will never put you into something, that he'll never bring you out. God doesn't bring you out of something without having a desire to bring you into something. But you have to learn how to persevere. I'll give you a prime example. We remember Elijah, the one who called down fire, the one who stopped rain. Remember Elisha, his protege? Remember when God told him, Elijah, when he had ran from Jezebel, go back and anoint Elijah in your stead. Elijah finds Elisha plowing in the field. 12 yokes of oxen. 12 yokes plowing in the field. So one of the reasons that God can choose Elijah, because Elijah understood process. Plowing. You don't plow unless you desire to plant. And plants have a process before they produce. He understood process and he understood persevering. He understood that in order for me to get a harvest, there must be a seed. He understood it, and 12 yokes of oxen. He had to be able to deal with power. So God knew that he was choosing who he was choosing when he put the mantle. Even though he put the mantle on the man wasn't ready for the assignment. So he had to persevere and follow. Listen to what I'm getting ready to say. And Elijah said, let me go back and tell my mother and father bye. I want you to see this. So what he was familiar with, he was losing the familiarity for future. And sometimes if God is going to bring you into the future, he's got to get rid of your familiar. What you're familiar with. What you're familiar with, mama. What you're familiar with, daddy. What you're familiar with, your process. Because that process is already finished. You finished that process. You know how it works. You know how to function in that season. So God say, in order for you to function in a new season, you got to lose that job. If you lose the job, then you'll understand that I'm Jehovah Jireh. Then I'm the provider. But the job, you thought it was your provider, so you lost the job to find him. And you're saying, God, this is not fair. And God is saying, am I not the God where the earth is my footstool? Do I not own a cattle on 1,000 hills? Is the gold and silver not mine? Do you not know that all things belong to God? Everything belongs to God, the earth and everything that dwell therein. Do you not understand that? And God is saying, your faith has come to an end in this place. I'm bringing you into a new place. So I close one door because I am the door you have to go through in this season. Persevere. Endure like a hard soldier. And Elisha kills his 12 oxen. Go and tell his parents bye because he sees future is more important than the familiar. He kisses them bye. I want you to see the pattern for following Christ. This is why Christ said this way. He told me this today. On the way here, he said that people are going to unfollow me. They're no longer going to share me, and they're not going to like me because of hardship, because of endurance. When Jesus had a hard saying, it said that the men that followed him turned away from him because of the hard saying. And Jesus turned to the 12 apostles he chose and said, will you leave me too? Will you unfriend me? Will you not follow me? Will you no longer share me because of your season? And Peter said, where can we go? Because you have eternal life. This is why the Bible said no man is fit for the kingdom if he put his hands to the plow and turn back. You unfollowed me. You stopped following me because you stopped believing in me because of the season that you were in. And not understanding, I only allowed you to go through this season so you can be seasoned. I was trying to season you. Okay. Let me ask you this question. I'm going to ask you this from a natural place, since I'm using the word season. Who goes to a cow and start throwing season on a cow that's alive? Nobody. That cow must be stripped, and that cow must die to give up its goods. So God is saying in the season of difficulty and times, all I need is your death to bring you out of that season, so that I can season you. See, you need to be raw. I want to make sure that the season gets to the bones. Elisha, not Elijah, Elisha was so anointed, his season, the anointing was seasoned. It was marinated in his bones. So even when he died, they pushed somebody who was sick in his grave, and he hopped out because of the season that was in his bones. Not understanding that mantle that covered that man seasoned him. And before God can give you a mantle, he strips the man to give you a new garment. Elijah told him, he said, what do you have? Because Elijah tried to send him away. Why are you following me? Now, turn back. And the Bible said he didn't want to turn back because he didn't have nothing else to turn back to. So Elijah takes the same role as Jesus. Foxes have holes and birds have nests, but Elisha had no way to lay his head. He left his house to follow God. And the man of God said, what will you have me to give you? He said, a double portion. He said, the thing that you ask is the hard thing. But if you see me go up, you know what he was saying? If you can only persevere. Some of you are one moment away from your promise. one moment away from your manifestation. You're on the brink of the greatest breakthrough in your entire life. But some people get to the brink and walk away because they think that their season is not going to change. Can I tell you this? And I'll give you a prime example. Do you honestly think that Joseph knew that Pharaoh, that he was one day away from him getting out of the prison so that he can remain in the palace? But he had to endure. He had to endure the lies. He had to endure the shame. He had to endure the prison. He had to endure his family. He had to endure being stripped. And when you can look at the pattern, it makes a beautiful masterpiece. God is trying to make a masterpiece out of your life with your pain. You don't even see it. God is the original Picasso. Because he takes that thing that you think is nothing and making something. God would never allow you to waste pain. No, he doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste tears. He bottles the tears, but he said in this season you have to endure. Endurance. You have to endure like a hard soldier. And when you endure, you'll see the manifestation of what you've endured for. This is the reason you're being fought at the capacity that you're being fought. Or should we just abbreviate your name? MW. Are you MW? Microwave? Are you microwave? That you want everything your way? You want to just push God's buttons? You want to come in church and you want to give him a hallelujah? Thinking that's going to work. It's not going to work. You cannot set your time when you don't know how much time is going to take. You're just going to learn how to endure. This is your season to endure. Listen, please hear me. Oh, my God. Let me say this to you. Elisha endures, and the mantle falls on the person who perseveres. He performs twice as many miracles as the one that gave him the mantle, because God trusted the person with the mantle that had the patience to endure, that knew how to go through. My question, how are you going through your tough season? Are you going through believing? Are you going through praying? Are you going through fasting? Are you going through worshiping? Because these are things. Are you going through with the right mentality, or are you angry? Most people get angry in difficult seasons, and they get angry at the people around them because God haven't moved for them. But can I tell you that God is already moved for you? Everything that God does is only a delayed reaction. You know what an echo is? An echo, you hear it twice. That's why the Bible said, God, once has he spoken, twice have I heard. It was an echo. God doesn't have to repeat himself. The earth will respond and repeat what he said. So let me tell you this. When God said that the house was yours, or the car was yours, the ministry was yours, the job was yours, the children was yours, when God said it, I want you to see this. When he said it, he didn't have to say it again. So we're trying to remind God of what he said. We're trying to remind him of what he said. And God said, when I said it, you only heard the echo. The echo, in order for a room to echo, that sound must go to the end of that room and come back for you to hear it twice. God has said, when I said it the first time, when it reached you, it was just an echo because it's finished with me. It ain't a glitch. You're just waiting for the manifestation of what I said. It's not a glitch. You're going to see it, but you got to persevere in order to see it. You have to endure to get to the end of this season to see it. Do you know what it seemed like? God, it's not fair. You know how many times I told God, let me give you one of my personal testimonies. I told God something. I said, Lord, this was probably about 14 years ago. And I thought I was tough. I told God, I said, Lord, I said, I've been fasting, I've been praying, I've been studying. Anybody you tell me to give words to, I give words. I say, Lord, but I need answers. Do you know what God told? Now, I'm going through, I'm going to tell y'all several things that God told me. I'm going to tell you 3 things. I'm telling you one right now. I'm giving you 2 more. And I was telling God because I had problems. I said, Lord, I got these problems. I need answers. And the Lord spoke to me and he said, I'm not giving you an answer. I made you an answer. He said, and when you give people the answer, your answer will come. He says, son, you have to do what I told you to do and not focus on you and endure. I can remember one time, this was years ago, I didn't even have a car, y'all. I didn't have a car. And sometimes this was when I was a baby, like a baby in ministry. And I told God I wanted a car. And God called me selfish. I'm like, God, I'm catching buses. I'm bumming and borrowing rides. I said, I don't have a car. I said, Lord, why am I selfish? I said, I'm just asking you for a car. What have I done wrong? How am I selfish? I don't understand. I was a baby. And God says, stop asking me for a car that's self-centered and ask me for the car lot so you can help other people. He says, endure until you get the car lot so that you can be a blessing to other people and not just yourself. Endure. Not understanding that years later, that what would happen, that he would make me a pastor, that people would give me their car lot so that I can give other people cars. My God, today, woo, woo, woo. Not realizing because of my not self-centeredness or self-righteousness, not understanding that I had to endure until people gave me cars so that I can now release the cars based on what he told me, but I had to endure. It was endurance. He was putting me through a process in order to perfect me so that he can give me a promise. I'm telling y'all, what I've learned about God, and I'm trying to be as simplistic as I can in endurance. Every part of my life in ministry, God would always put me through a process where I had to endure. Do you honestly think that I'm sitting behind and talking to you on this television network if I didn't have to endure? No. No door is open without endurance. The pain that I had to suffer, the things that I had to go through. When God trusted me with the promise, the pain came. And God wanted to see if I would trust more in him than the pain. Because sometimes our pain becomes our God. And we cannot persevere, and we unfriend God. We stop following. We don't share him no more. And we close our Christian account. Why? And we stop following God because we say the pain is too much to bear. But you tell me one person. I'm going to go to this scripture. Joshua chapter 13. Now this would seem unfair. Joshua chapter 13. I'm going to read to you what God said about Joshua. Now Joshua, verse 1, was old and stricken in years. And the Lord said unto him, Thou art old and stricken in years, and there remaineth yet very much land to possess. Now this is, I want you to understand something. It seemed like it was unfair. God even called Joshua old. God even called him stricken. Because he didn't understand the purpose of his pain was for God to fulfill a promise that he promised Abraham. Sometimes God is allowing you to go through so much adversity, so much challenges, because what he promised somebody else. But he's allowing you to go through the pain because he's trusting you to bring it through, trusting you to fulfill it. You're chosen to go through that pain, to persevere, to bring other people into their promise. Joshua didn't understand. He was only birthed for that moment. Yes, you endure. Yes, you're going through pain. Yes, you're going through persecution. Yes, you're going through suffering. But God is telling Joshua, you're old and you're well stricken, but you still have to conquer more land, more territory, because I trust you to fulfill my promise that others will fulfill their promise through you. In other words, I'll have you to function like Christ. Joshua's name and Jesus' name means the same. Their purpose was the same. Promise needed to be fulfilled. So you're going through everything you're going through to establish your family, to establish your sisters, your brothers, your children. You don't understand your pain is going to birth generational blessings for 1,000 years. This is why you're going through your pain. That everything that God promised your family, he's trusting you with the pain to go through it so you can bring them into it. And he refused to allow Joshua to get out of his pain so that other people can fulfill his promise. Could it be that that's the reason you're experiencing pain? That's the reason God put you through a process? So that you can bring others into their promise, into their promotions, into their platform? Could it be that he's using you and your pain for their gain? A lot of times we don't see it. When he called Jeremiah was so upset and frustrated, he told God, because of my persecution and because of my pain, I refuse to release another prophecy. I'm not doing this anymore. And God told him, Jeremiah said, listen, even though I said that I wasn't going to do it, he said, but your word is like fire shut up in my bones. Whew. I cannot help but to release what you've placed in me. I will release life. And God is telling you in your pain, still release life. Joseph in the prison still prophesied. So even when you feel like you're in prison, where it feel like you're all by yourself, you still have to fulfill. Watch this. Joseph had a gift to interpret. Watch this. And he didn't understand in that part of the pain. You know Joseph was in pain because the people that he gave prophecies to got out of the prison. And he told the baker and the butler, when you get out, tell Pharaoh, don't forget about me. It was pain. And sometimes going through being able to persevere, going through being persecuted, going through problems, sometimes it seems like you're forgotten. But how are you forgotten when God remembers? God is a God that never forgets. Joseph didn't understand that while he was in his pain, his gift was making room for him. His gift was making room for the palace while he was in the prison. And God would give another person the problem so that he can solve it. He would give Pharaoh the problem so that the only person in Egypt that could solve it was now Joseph, because he gave the prophecy to the butler. So the butler had to tell. The baker had to tell. The butler had to tell Pharaoh, there was a man who interpreted my dream. Look at how God was developing him through persecution, but he had to persevere in the prison to get to the palace. And God is saying, I know you feel like you're in the prison, baby, but your palace is next. Just persevere, endure, and go through. But your gift is getting ready to make room for you. And that room will be, listen, Joseph never went back to the prison. He stayed in the palace. I told you that these blessings are generational. Listen, while he's now in the palace, his people are in poverty. And now Joseph is in position to put them in position. He can now put them in Goshen. He can put them in place because he's in place, because he's learned how to persevere and go through the pain. And now people can reach their promise because of Joseph persevered. Do you not think that Jesus didn't persevere? That he had to be whipped with 39 lashes, crowns of thorns upon his head, nails in his hands, nails in his feet. Do you not think instead of them giving them water, they gave him vinegar, which is gall? Pulled the hair out of his beard. Sold his clothes, humiliated. I want you to see what he had to persevere. And it seemed like his own father was unfair. That he would say, it pleased the father to bruise his own son. In our day and time, we would call it child abuse. We would call CPS, Child Protective Service. The abuse hotline. We would call everybody. Jerry's kids and everybody else. We call them all. And say it's unfair. But God would allow his son to go through all of that for us, because there was an absence of us, and Jesus had to learn how to persevere through pain because of the promise that he had for us. Are you enduring for your family? Are you enduring for your bloodline? Are you enduring for your children? And some of you are saying, because I hear somebody saying, well, I don't have kids. You don't have kids now. But what you're going through, your kids, it will establish your kids later. That God will remember your covenant, your works, your labor, your suffering. I'm going to close it with this. I'm going to say this and I'm done. We have insurance companies like State Farm. And I think of one of State Farm's slogan is, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. That's their slogan. And State Farm guarantees that if you're in an accident, you're guaranteed to be covered in an event of an accident. So watch, you got physical therapists that would help you in the event of an accident. Not only do you have a physical therapist in the event of an accident to make sure there's no broken bones, to make sure there's no internal damage, they make sure that they pay you for your pain and suffering. Now this is State Farm. So if State Farm has the slogan, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Jesus promises never to leave you nor forsake you. A friend will stick closer than a brother. He would come back to say, a friend would lay down his life. He will die for his own brothers. He would die for what he believed in. He would die for those. So State Farm has a good slogan, but Jesus has the statement. Listen, Jesus saved the entire world. He died for all of us. Look at this. So if you're going through pain and suffering, if State Farm can pay you, you think Jesus ain't paying you attention? If State Farm can pay you for your pain and suffering, you think God can't elevate you in pain and suffering? As a matter of fact, your pain is what captivated him to grow closer to you. Remember, he said, I'm close to a broken heart and a contrite spirit. He draws closer in pain. Watch this. Do you honestly think in the book of Exodus, in Exodus chapter 15, It's the first time that we see the name Jehovah Rapha. Jehovah Rapha means the God that heals, the Lord thy physician. So God becomes your personal physician because of your pain. He knows exactly how to heal your pain, exactly how to fix the broken parts. He's the physician. And you got your own personal trainer, your own personal physician. Listen, to put you back on the right track. And listen, and you love State Farm. Watch this. You pay State Farm to insure you, but he paid his life so that you would be insured. I'm going to say it again. State Farm, you pay State Farm to cover you, but he paid for you so that you can be covered. And all he needs you to do is put one foot in front of the other and keep stepping. Keep stepping. Keep walking through your valley. Keep walking, because if you keep walking, the valley is going to remain where it is, but you won't. You'll walk right out of the valley because you have the ability to persevere and endure that hard season. This is your season to finish your course. Don't be like the microwave. Let me show you something real quick about this microwave. It's just a box. And we try to box God in. See, this is what religion does. Religion will try to box God in. Religion will tell you all you need to do is turn around and holler and drop $1. It's religion. Religion will give you all of these methods and methodologies. It becomes madness to try to reach a moment. And you go in and you pushing buttons and you pushing buttons and you've done every religious thing that they said, but all of a sudden there's nothing. It looked like time is running out and the stuff is still not prepared. And God say, take me out of the box. He said, I'm not a microwave. You can't nuke me. You can't nuke your seasons. You can't warm me up. Because you only put processed things and things that are left over. God said, I don't want you with leftovers. Behold, I'll do a new thing. You don't need to use somebody else's progress or process. You have your own. I've already prepared the way for you. Listen, the steps of a good man are already ordered. God has already ordered your steps so you don't have to follow in someone else's. He's trying to do a new thing. But in order for him to do a new thing, you have to become a new creature. You have to be renewed if he's going to bring you into the new thing. Don't quit. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't give in. See, if you don't break down, I've learned, you'll get your breakthrough. You cannot break down in this season. But even if you happen to break down, you know, with some car dealerships, some of them offer a lifetime warranty on some of the parts of your vehicle. It is called a manufacturer's warranty. If the car breaks down, you can call AAA. It's already incorporated in the manufacturer's warranty. They can give you a rental car if it happened to break down. All you have to do is call the people that holds the warranty, and based on the warranty, they'll send your help. I want you to see this. If that can work for cars if they happen to break down. Christ has given you a lifetime warranty and guarantee that if you break down in the midst of your trials, if you break down in the middle of your tragedy, if you break down in the middle of your problems, he's guaranteed to send AAA. What does triple mean? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He'll send angels. He'll send the Holy Spirit. He'll send divine helpers to get you out of your dilemma. Triple A is nothing more than the helper. The Holy Spirit is nothing more than the helper. He's the last part of the Godhead. It's the last part of the Trinity that God has left in the earth realm as himself. So when you break down, he's guaranteed to bring you back, watch this, to the manufacturer. Who is the manufacturer? It's God, because he's manufactured men. He's manufactured women. That if you happen to break down, he know every part about you. You take him to a mechanic know every part about the car. You can't go to Shade Tree. You got to go to the mechanic. Because mechanics know the specifications of every part of what's under the hood. God knows every part about your heart that's been broken. Every part about your spirit that has been broken. Every part about your mind that has been messed with. Because he specialized in it, because he manufactured men. Tonight I want you to hear me. And hear me good. Endure. Don't quit. Keep the faith. Paul said something. He said, I finished my course. I kept the faith. You know what keeping something does? Or what it really means? You possess it. I kept it. Like you keep money in your bank account? I kept the faith. Paul said, I have kept the thing that pleased God. Keep the thing that pleases God in this season while you're going through the tough season. Keep faith. Keep hope. Keep joy. Keep peace. Keep love. Keep that thing. If you can keep it, then you can endure. Last words I'll use. When Moses stood at the Red Sea, because they had been persecuted so long by Pharaoh, here Pharaoh comes back to persecute him again. And Moses said, the Egyptians that you see today, you shall see no more. Listen to me. This is a prophetic word for somebody. The pain and the persecution that you see today, you will see no more. You have survived the toughest season of your life. Now you qualify for the greatest blessing of your life. Listen, and when the blessing and the breakthrough come, do not apologize, because nobody knows the measure of your pain. Don't apologize because God did something for you that they didn't think you qualified for. Don't apologize. If somebody call you prideful, somebody call you arrogant, somebody say you're stuck up now, somebody say you're selfish and you're greedy because they didn't experience your pain, so they can't get a part of your prosperity. They can't. If they don't know that you had sleepless nights, don't let anybody now disturb your peace after God has given you peace. No, they don't qualify. Tell them to finish their process, and then they'll understand your promotion. Listen, I pray that something was said tonight that helped you and encouraged you in what you're going through. Keep going. You'll see the expected end. See you next week on Merge on the Vision Channel. Listen, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning back in. We had a couple of technical difficulties. Anytime that God desires to say anything that's going to challenge anybody, that's going to change you or they're going to convict you, then the enemy doesn't want you to change. He doesn't want you to understand. So listen, even tonight that I had to persevere, even tonight I had to be able to endure. There are things that's transpiring and taking place in life where Satan doesn't design